For any Halo fan, I think I'd be preaching to the choir in a big way if I said that these games start out well. The Halo series is known for its epic introductions, and based off of how grandeur the space opera aspect of the games are, it's no surprise that they do start off in a big way with a huge splash. So, let's find out which is the strongest and which is the least strongest of the list, and what comes in between of all of that. And in order to do this, we're going to look at the first cutscene and first mission of each game. I just want to preface this though at the start, saying that I know this may seem slightly annoying, but though I will be looking at the two Spartan games and the Wars games, the top-down Halo games, I will be bundling them in at the end because I can't really compare them to the FPS games. And honestly, of the four, three of them would definitely sit at the end anyway. They do fortunately happen to be the weakest introductions, with the exception of maybe one. But they will be bundled in at the end, so I'm sorry about that. So, let's begin. And in last place, it's Spartan Assault. I'm sorry, it's Spartan Assault. As a top-down game, the first mission isn't very interesting to begin with. The opening cinematic, It's Roland, everybody's favorite bland, boring AI. Roland, up there with Lasky and Del Rio for the most boring, uninteresting characters in the game, and maybe Palmer. Unfortunately, it opens with Roland explaining that this is all a simulation and essentially a video game within a video game. That is not cool. There's nothing cool about that, and it kind of spoils things a little bit. So at points, the art in the cutscene is pretty cool. It's one of those sort of slideshow things, but ultimately, yeah, kind of falls flat just a little bit. Second place, or second to last, is Spartan Strike. Yeah, unfortunately, this suffers from some of the same issues. Once again, it's a simulation, but this is a follow-up simulation. I think some of the art is slightly cooler. It's a little bit more consistent. You don't have that goofy barrier around it. But it is Roland again telling you that it's a simulation, and it's ultimately just a little bit boring. With Wars 2, I was expecting this, honestly, to be better than it actually was, going back to it. Though the cutscenes themselves are absolutely beautiful and really well done and absolutely, so polished and gorgeous, the opening cutscene isn't actually that exciting. Not really too much happens in the opening cutscene for this. And then the mission that follows is okay. It's all right. It feels a bit tutorially. You're just sort of telling somewhere where to go throughout the mission. Warthog, go there. Marines, go there. And yeah, there's a definite sense of not really too much of a splash going on. It does get way cooler later on in the game, but unfortunately we're just looking at how a game starts. And it kind of feels like a bit of a refresh from Wars 1, and it doesn't really open with a splash. Wars 1, however, Halo Wars, next up on the list, opens with a gorgeous cutscene that follows some Spartans in amidst a big war, and it kind of reminds me of Halo Landfall, that short that came out. I think it was a Blumkamp short, and it's absolutely beautiful, especially for the time, and the rest of the cutscenes are beautiful too. The mission is a lot more interesting than the Halo Wars mission. Halo Wars 2 mission, you actually go around rescuing people, and it looks a little bit more interesting. So I definitely put Wars above Halo Wars 2. Now, with those aside, let's get a little bit controversial. It's time to get, let's get very controversial. Please don't hate me, but in last place of all of the mainline FPS games is Reach. I like Reach, don't get me wrong, I like Reach a lot. Reach is a fantastic game, full to the brim with cool stuff, a gorgeous cutscene, a gorgeous soundtrack, absolutely great gameplay, whatever, a beautiful game, absolutely beautiful game. But the introduction wasn't as interesting as I think we all want it to be, and so the standard that we hold it to, I think, is a little bit higher than we should. It opens with a helmet, buried into the glassed Reach, with Jen Taylor absolutely chewing up a script. Oh my god, Jen Taylor, what a phenomenal voice actress! But they're chewing up the script, and with this beautiful monologue, with excellent voice acting, the absolute gem of the gaming industry when it comes to voice work, Jen Taylor. But if you really break it down, you listen to the monologue, it's just someone saying a lot of stuff without really saying much at all. It's a lot of symbolic stuff, a lot of metaphors, and the pianos are carrying a lot of it, and her voice itself is carrying a lot of it. But ultimately, it could be a little bit passé. And then you travel over to this very generic military base, and you're debriefed with some of the other Spartans. It's Again, it's like, okay, some of the dialogue's all right. You meet all of the AS characters, and they're doing things that are symbolic of the character themselves. But it is a very sort of generic briefing room or debriefing room or whatever. And traveling over there in the Warthog, it's just, again, there's nothing like huge, nothing to really sink your teeth into. And the mission that follows, unfortunately, they completely put the brakes on that, and it's phenomenally slow. I don't care what anyone says. Reach out some of the best art design in the series at times. Missions like the Package and the Pillar of Autumn are absolutely stunning. New Alexandria, oh, chef's kiss. But this is kind of bland, honestly. The opening mission is set on a very mundane, boring setting. It's even raining, which is not in a cool ODST rain way, but in a kind of bland, like, oh, it's raining out. Someone put a Bon Iver album on, and you just sort of walk around with your other Spartans, picking up this intel. You pick up a piece of intel, nothing really happens. Some mowers run past, and then you see a little bit of someone feeling threatened by another Spartan. Nothing really happens. You just run around this bland planet. You don't really do much. It's kind of boring. So I'm sorry, but Reach as an opening mission, yes, it does get a little more exciting after that, but it never really blew me away, and it still doesn't to this day. Next up is something on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. This is silly. Halo 5. What a silly opening. I'm putting this as low down as it is, mostly because of the cringe dialogue in the spaceship and the lack of chemistry with the characters. It's goofy, it's silly, it's over the top, but it is fun. When you land and you're just thrown into the lions, you're like a ball on a run, and you absolutely smash through everything. And I do like the fact that, look, 343 went with the faster gameplay for Halo 5, and they really don't shy away from it straight out of the gate. You're just absolutely tearing through things at 1,000 miles an hour, and it's a good looking mission too. I've said this before, but it kind of reminds me, elements of it remind me of the second half of Covenant from Halo 3. It's a good looking mission, yeah, and there's a lot thrown at you, maybe a little too much, but viscerally, it's a very interesting scene, but again, the cutscene before it, it's kind of lame. The whole Avengers Age of Ultron sort of almost parody introduction with the single take as they're doing crazy, silly, goofy stuff that has no translation to the gameplay. And actually, as a huge setback to this, it doesn't translate to the gameplay at all. It's very jarring, the gap between cutscene and gameplay, and that's not great. And there is horrible cringe dialogue, and you're not really met with the Master Chief at first. We are glossing over the Halsey cutscene, which is okay, but again, doesn't really have anything to do with the story, and is a little bit uninteresting. But yeah, no, it's goofy and it's over the top, but it is fun. It's a fun mission from start to finish. It's just silly. Anyway, next up is Halo 4. Yes, I know, I hate the game. I'm not a huge fan of the game, and honestly, I'd rather play Halo 5 than Halo 4. But I will say to its credit that 4 had a pretty interesting opening, a pretty interesting introduction, with some... following the cutscene, some excellent pacing. So look, this opens with again another Halsey cutscene that really doesn't mean anything and isn't really all too connected to the game. I don't know why they decided to do that twice. It's really confusing. Something about Spartans and like whether it's moral or not, something like that. So I'm completely off the beaten track. When being connected to Halo 3, and actually that's something that knocks it down a place. Is that it has no connection to Halo 3. Although whilst trying to simulate one. So then we're thrown into the shoes of the Chief, and he busts out of the cryo tube. One thing I don't like is the pacing of this. There's something about it, man. I expected something a little slower that takes its time to like reignite the Chief, and like some sparks, some magic to the scene, and it was completely bereft of that. It just goes and goes and goes and goes, uninterrupted by a tutorial that makes you sort of press buttons around the cryo tube. So the pacing is kind of all over the place. But I don't like the way that you just immediately bust out, ask Cortana what's going on, and then grab her. I would have rather... I know, like, maybe it makes sense that he'd want to get straight into the action, but I'd rather something pace-wise that sort of built itself up a lot better than that. And, of course, the changing the armor is still bizarre and still something that I'm not okay with. And the overall art style, trying to connect the two, but then having a different art style just doesn't work. Also, the bit where the Elite attacks you, and then they explain fighting the Covenant again as just, oh yeah, they're the bad guys again. And I'm also a huge fan of the quick time events. But when you get out into the zero gravity, that's when the mission really starts to get good. And running back from... Oh, actually, no, wait. That shot where it kind of pulls out That's really awesome, and like you're like, whoa, what am I being sucked into? Then you run away, and then there's these huge moments where it gets mysterious, and the soundtrack gets mysterious with it, and the rubble, as it's falling away, given the time that the game came out, looks very impressive. So yeah, there's a lot of good to this mission, but there are things I wish they had handled a little better, but it does give you a good sense of mystery. Okay, now we're going to get controversial again, but this will be my second most controversial choice, I think. It's CE. Yeah, it's CE. It's the one that started it all. Now look, I know a lot of people love the intro to CE, and a lot of people put this either first or second. That tutorial you go through at the start of CE completely kills the pace, and kind of kills the mission for me. It's one of the reasons I don't go back to it when I do my weekly complete a certain number of missions challenge. Now the introduction, the cutscene at the start is very good and does a great job of instilling a sense of mystery. What is this thing? What is this Halo ring? What's the ship? What are they doing there? And all of these things, and it does a great job of feeling very mysterious. And there's like this what they call it, like a bridge, and everyone's kind of it's great. The atmosphere is absolutely fantastic. But again, you're thrown into this horrible tutorial, and you just want to get through it as quickly as possible. But you're stuck there for a few freaking minutes, man. You're stuck in that tutorial for several minutes. But then the ship blows up and things get really interesting. Lots of tight corridors, and it really does a good job of showing off the fantastic gameplay that CE has to offer. Obviously nothing like over the top, like nothing like, whoa, and then this happened, and then this happened. It's crazy. But you do see a lot of cool environmental things, especially for 2001. Following players who then get blown up, and then you've got to make your own way. That's really cool. But overall, I know I could get hate for this, but I was blown away environmentally, and by the opening cutscene, I was blown away. But everything after that, that tutorial really killed the pace. And there are things you could do to, get that pace back up, but it didn't do it, unfortunately, in CE. Amazing game, masterpiece of a game, but that opening, there have been better. Speaking of better, Halo Infinite. Look, I say what you want about the multiplayer, and I have. Wow, I have. But the campaign, I still love. I still have a great time with the campaign, and I'm actually running through it now as we speak. I'm doing my legendary run. The intro is absolutely fantastic to this game. It is tremendous. I loved it. At first you get to see the Chief get beat. You don't see the Chief get beat. That doesn't happen in Halo 2. He blew that ship up. He went through the bomb. He did the ultimate badass moment. But no, he was beat by Atriox, and that real grounded moment, it did a lot. It did a lot for just what we're dealing with here. The guy we're dealing with, the myth, the legend, the mythos of Atriox. And that really sets a great precedent and a great tone for the mission. And then you meet the oh my god, you meet the pilot in a great moment where he pulls away, he wipes away the mirror, and then you're in view and everything boots up, and you start again. Some great dialogue with the Chief, and a good back and forth between him and the pilot. A little bit slow, but I think it was supposed to be, and that's that sense of like build up and grandeur that I wanted from Halo 4. And then you of course jump into your mission, and it's beautiful. That banner ship is absolutely gorgeous. I love the Doom moment, where he punches the control panel, and the pacing is absolutely fantastic on this mission. You're also met with a lot of the verticality that you'll be experiencing through this campaign. You get the grapple hook straight away. There's a lot of fun gameplay options in this, but like I said, the pacing is absolutely tremendous, and you end on this huge high where the music swells, and like, I know it's been 20 years, but this is it again. You get to feel this way, and you do. You get to feel this way again as the music swells, it gets louder and it crescendos, and you're just barreling through this stuff and using all of the best gameplay elements to get through it all. It's absolutely fantastic. A beautiful intro to the game. So that will be Infinite. Now, top 3. Where do we start with the top 3? Well, I need to be honest here. It's my favorite game ever made, but Halo 3 is actually number 3 for me. Look, it's as high up as it is because of how beautiful the intro is. From the very moment, from the very that is so iconic, so beautiful, and so perfectly paced. And you see what you think is a shooting star, but it's actually the Master Chief. And yes, you get another Jen Taylor monologue, but this time it makes sense. It has all of the brilliant voice acting of Jen Taylor, but it makes sense contextually because she's talking about him being just it's arbitrarily different, arbitrarily special, and that's what luck means. Like, no, this isn't. It's just something. It's just something intangible that I can't place, which is what luck is. And you see that luck demonstrated by thinking, oh my god, is that shooting star coming down? No, it's the chief. And he barrels down, and it's an absolutely beautiful cutscene, and the field looking up at the stars, and the sense that this could be happening anywhere in the galaxy is an absolutely genius way to open a video game. And then of course you get a great line from Johnson. You find out that he did survive. A great moment where he pulls him up. Everything is great. And a lot of people talk about how, yes, that's great, but the opening mission isn't too spectacular. And I disagree. If you think about it, you take yourself back to 2007, just picture the amount of foliage you're seeing from the get-go. Famously, Hideo Kojima said that, he saw this opening mission and wanted to make something as breathtaking as this. Look, if you put yourselves in the shoes of someone playing this game for the first time in 2007, you've got to realize they've got to show the big guns straight away. And if you look at all of the missions, what is one thing that they can really show off with? Foliage that you can melee and hit and that moves with the wind is a great start, and it's very densely sort of populated with environmental stuff, and it's absolutely beautiful, and the pacing's fantastic. It gets faster and bolder and bolder and bolder, and then eventually you rescue the Marines and you head off in the ship. It's a beautiful intro and a fantastic way to start Halo 3. I really love it. But what's better than that? Well, after this you're going to know what number one is, but we're going to go with it anyway. Falling feet first into hell. It's Halo ODST. ODST has a fucking brilliant, chilling intro. It is absolutely it's good. Oh, it's so good. So you fall in the drop pod and everything is just crazy around you. Again, put yourself in the feet of someone playing this for the first time in 2009. All the control panels, all the lights, everything's going off around you as you come barreling in. They have never done anything like this before. Halo has never done anything like this before, and with ODST they threw you straight into it. Everything's buzzing and going off, and it's a very visceral experience. And when you land, there's so much atmosphere to take in, to accept, to get soaked into, and they do that beautifully. You just soak in this gorgeous noir atmosphere, and it's still just thinking about it, I want to go back into ODST. I love the Mombasa streets, and I love the atmosphere of Mombasa streets, and how just contrastingly different it was to the huge, grandiose, high-stakes mentality of the Halo series. But you land in and you soak in this beautiful, beautiful atmosphere. And honestly, as long as they got that location as right as they did, they could have done absolutely anything with this mission. And as it happens, it is quite a short mission and you don't really do much. But you hear the phone go off in the distance, and you go over to it, and just everything is just creating atmosphere for you. The pacing's beautiful, and overall it's just a fantastic start to a game. But what could be better than that? Well, you already know what this is going to be, so it's whatever. But what could be better? This is the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest introduction to any video game I've ever seen in my entire life. I will forever, in terms of video games, be chasing that opening scene of the Arbiter being dragged through the court for the rest of my life. There is nothing I have seen in a video game before or after that has blown me away, impressed me. This has absolutely been the most incredible thing I've ever seen in a video game. To this day, nothing has come close to that. Nothing has come close to the Arbiter being dragged through the court. Because again, you've got to remember that this game was made years ago, a very long time ago, and nothing was quite like this. There were no cinematic experiences like this, but it's incredible. Even if you saw this in a movie, even if you saw this in a TV show, a film, anything, even if you saw this there, you'd be like, wow, this is beautiful. This alien in this very just stripped out, naked scene, but being surrounded by people who are just ragging on him and laughing at him, and it's sort of dragging him through the dirt, but it's not a dirt. It's this beautiful, grandiose, epic, high ceiling court, that absolutely matches the aesthetic of the Elite, and he's being dragged through the mud because of his failings, and he is met face to face with the prophets, the best antagonists in gaming. You know, each with their three different, completely different voice actors, which really create this. I want to talk about this in the future, but there's disconnect between the prophets and the covenant. You know, immediately you know that there's something shady going on. They do that visually with the way that the characters look and with the way that the characters sound, and sort of their general cadence, and you know the way that they speak is conveyed immediately to you, so that you know that something is shifty and something, you know, weird is going on, whilst this huge grand epic scene is going on, and you're just taking everything in. If that wasn't enough, it's beautifully set alongside the over sort of hype and aggrandization of the chief receiving his medals and everyone applauding him and the trumpets, you know, and like this guy's being dragged through the dirt while this guy is absolutely being awarded, and they play it off of one another so perfectly. Something I didn't realize when I was younger, when I first played this. Those two cutscenes, you know, it's just, it works so well. I can't even begin to explain it to you. And the cinematography is fantastic. You know, even for a video game made in 2004. Wow, that court scene. Oh, I will never get it out of my head. And I really genuinely to this day don't think I will ever see anything as impressive in a video game. So I'm trying not to spoil too much of it, because if you haven't seen it, please just play the first mission of Halo 2 and just watch that cutscene, or just watch a cutscene on YouTube after this, because it is so stunning. It's so stunning, especially in the Halo 2 anniversary graphics. Watch it. I'd rarely recommend this, but watch it in the anniversary remastered graphics, because the blur cutscenes are even better than what we had back then. Although if you want historical context, obviously go for the classic. But then the mission that follows is great too. Yes, okay, it's a lot like the Halo 1 mission, but expanded in ways that you'd want it to be. I said I like the tight corridors that show off the great gameplay of CE, but nothing happened that really blew me away. Well, here it did. You're aboard the spaceship as you see them burst through the door. You have that countdown timer. You know something's about to happen. But then they connect those tubes and they come in from the side. And I didn't see that coming when I first played this game. And then you go to a 0G section. Then you leave. You go down this gondola that's making these huge mechanical sounds. And then you go out into zero gravity, and your gun starts making different sounds. And it feels like it's behaving differently, despite the fact that I don't really think it is. And you see jetpack elites for the first time too. And the pacing of the mission is absolutely fantastic, and of course it ends with you getting that bomb. And I know this is potentially going to second cutscene material, but him destroying the ship with the bomb is again another top 5 Halo cutscene of all time. There's a reason I think Halo 2 has a great story of well, any video game for me, but definitely of the Halo franchise. And a large part of that is the first half an hour of this game, because man, is it good. Anyway, that was my list. That was my list for the introductions to Halo games. So let me know what you think. I know a couple of those are controversial. I think CE and Reach are very controversial, but that's it. That's what I thought of them. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see everyone later.